All right, call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone to our Williamsport City Council meeting. It is Thursday, October 2nd. We're in Trade and Transit 2, third floor. Please rise for the invocation by Councilman Randy Allison, followed by the flag salute.
Heavenly Father, as we now enter the last quarter of the year, we're mindful of all the work that has to be done. Lord, we know the information we need to process, the many decisions we're going to have to make. And we're mindful of the responsibility that we have to the citizens of Williamsport to do all these things to the best of our ability and to work together to make this successful. Lord, in all this, I ask you that you give us wisdom, that you help us to make those good decisions, and that it would all be done in a good, blessed touch by your mighty hand. And I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3, approval of city council meeting minutes from September 18th, 2025. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Any comments, questions, changes on the minutes? Hearing and seeing none. Mrs. Frank on item 3.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Item 4, to limit courtesy of the floor. We've had one request, Scott Miller, 822 Tucker Street. Mr. Miller, welcome, sir. The floor is yours. If you just, for the record, announce what item on the
Scott
agenda.
Miller, 822 Tucker Street, Williamsport. Good evening, Council President. What I want to speak about from the agenda is the 2023 budget. The federal website where the city has to report some of its spending to shows that the city of Williamsport for 2023 did not report its federally guidelined spending, nor for 2024 for that matter. But I'm very bothered that we are not meeting our obligation to report our spending. I'm not even going to tell you the website that I found this on or didn't find it on, because I want y'all to spend a couple hours looking around and figuring out like I, a private citizen, had to. But what concerns me most is what is going to happen when the federal government says, give us our money back. Are my taxes going up? Or what happens when the federal government says, well, there's a penalty and a fine. My taxes go up. I want to know who in the city is responsible for not following policy and procedure and reporting our financial spending. And, you know, like you can't even do budget transfers from one year to the next without reporting it. So who's doing this and who's responsible? Whose head should be on a pike? Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, sir. All right. We'll jump around here a bit. Let's go to item 12. We have a demolition for 3537 West 4th Street. Motion in a second.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Narr, good evening, sir.
Good evening, President Yoder, Vice President Biter, members of council. What I bring before you tonight is a request from High Steel for a demo of the property at 3537 West 4th Street. It is the former veterinarian clinic that's up there that actually moved across the street. What they're requesting to do is demo it. It will be green space. They're not planning any development. And I do have a representative here if you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Any comments or questions from members? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, then item 12, Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Monty's not here.
informed me she was going to get on.
That's okay. We'll keep going.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Item 13, demolition 832 First Street. Motion in a second.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Nar.
What we have for you is a request, 832 First Street. It's in the residential zoning district. The owner is Joe Bauman. He's requesting to tear down the house. Obviously, it's, if you see pictures of it, it's an older home. His plan is, he does have several vacant lots next to it, so he will be placing homes on there as well. But 832 will be the first one that he'll go before to tear down. He will be placing another home in its place. And I do have representatives here.
All right. Any comments or questions? Ms. Mealy?
So the idea is a string of single family homes or more like condominiums, townhomes?
It'll be single family. There's several different lots that he has. So on each lot, he will be placing either a single or a double family home. But this home will be a single family that he'll place on the footprint.
And do we have a timeline for the?
As soon as we can get it demoed, he's not required to go through any other process, and he'll present us with building permit application as far as how it's structured. So he was eager to move on that as well as the other properties as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Glad to see some housing happening. Appreciate, kind of what you're doing, and it's a big issue in the city specifically, so grateful for it. It's great. It's very great. Mrs. Frank, item 13.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Gary. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Is the mayor online? No? Okay. Is Mr. Petro here? Petro,
Petro?
sorry. Yeah.
No, I don't
He's not.
see
Do
him.
we want to wait?
Yeah, I think we better wait on that.
Okay. Is there a motion to second that on item 5? If not, we can wait.
Are we waiting for him? Item 5?
Yeah, I mean,
think-
like, we have to, if there's not, we'll just let it.
Sure.
Yeah, just don't worry about it. We're gonna skip up on item 5. Okay, so yeah, procedurally, just ignore it. Okay. All right, item 6, Mrs. Frank.
An ordinance transfer number 7 in final reading.
Is there a motion in a second?
So moved.
Ms. Livermore, good evening.
Good evening, council. Sorry, I have all my stuff here.
No worries.
This is the final reading of ordinance number 7 that we discussed at the last council meeting. I don't know if anybody has any questions since then. This was for the, we moved $21,000 from Young Woods Park Improvement in Act 13 to the flood levy to pay GPI for some flood services.
Any comments, questions in second reading? All right, Mrs. Frank, then on the motion for item 6.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Item 7, Mrs. Frank.
An ordinance transfer ordinance number 11, 2023 budget, first reading.
Is there a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second. Ms. Livermore.
Hello again. This transfer ordinance number 11 is the adjustment of the 2023 budget numbers. The next item on the agenda is for the audit. And each time we do an audit approval, we always do the budget adjustment along with it. So that's what this is. It's adjust the items to make the ones of the overage and shortage correct.
Gotcha. This is first reading. Any comments, questions? We may very well have some in second reading after the audit, but Ms. Mealy.
How long did it take you to put this together, Jamie?
It takes a very long time. We try to keep the items that go over the items where we take the funds from the same department, but sometimes that's very challenging. So this one was kind of a little all over the place.
Yeah, it looks incredibly time consuming.
Yeah.
I was just gonna put out there that once upon a time, Tracy, when she was with the finance department, had suggested that we should shift from a complete line item budgeting scenario to a more department by department budgeting scenario, which would save a lot of time on things like this that shouldn't necessarily need to be a matter of ordinance.
I will say PFM did suggest the same.
Right.
Mhm.
That is to say that departments are in charge of apportioning their own budgets as they see fit, and we can obviously inquire as to spending on training, things like that outside of the budget process, but it wouldn't be part of the formal budget process, and revisions like this wouldn't be required as long as we were moving funds within departments. Just putting it out there as an observation, because it looks like Jamie probably spent about 20 hours on this.
Yeah, it just takes a long time. Yeah.
And it's not a change that we're likely to make anytime soon, but I do think that if we're trying to approach a slim municipal government, one of the things, it's important to track our expenditures, and nobody would ever not say that, but there's tracking and then there's sort of micromanaging, and it might be that we're veering a little bit into that territory sometimes. So.
Any other comments, questions? The only thing I would say with the line item thing, I mean, from what I can tell, it's fairly common with cities, from looking at other cities' budgets.
Not according to Tracy, it's not, it's the lesser of the two paths.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
not
that's
done
fine. I
any
mean, I
research,
haven't looked at all
so,
the
yeah.
other 51
Right.
cities' budgets,
Right.
third-class cities' budgets in the state. I mean, but
Right,
you look at like the other optional
right.
ones, the other 7, 8, 9 that I have looked at, that's fairly common. So, no, that's food
Yeah.
for thought.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions on item 7? All right, hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank, item 7.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Janice,
I'm here.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. We'll jump to item 10, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution to accept the fiscal year 2023 audit reports.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Mrs. Livermore.
Hello again. So actually, this is very exciting. We have the resolution in front of you is to approve the 2023 audit reports that were prepared by Zelenkowski Axelrod. We do have Kim Stank, and I'm not sure if Justin Bell's on the phone to answer any questions, but I will say this has been a long time coming, and it was a very good audit. So I'm glad to present this to you today.
This was reviewed in finance, and I think there was a pretty lengthy presentation about it, or at least discussion about it, maybe. I don't know.
actually advised that she defer most elements of the presentation to the
Okay.
full body of council on the assumption that, I mean, I think we got a relatively comprehensive presentation as well, but it seemed as though it would be wise if we're talking about, well, specifically in this context, about the city catching up hopefully by September of 26 on our audit, so that we are going forward calendar year to calendar year. Then there's some important discussions to be had about this piece, specifically that the parking authority will not be catching up anytime soon on their audits, it doesn't look like. And
Why?
they have
You
not,
left me a voicemail about this, and I
have
didn't
not-
get a chance to circle
they
back
have
with you. I'm
not
sorry.
completed an audit since 2018,
Why?
nor have they engaged anyone. I don't know.
Zelenkowski has engaged the parking authority,
Okay.
but the parking authority has not picked up the ball on that.
They, as in Zelenkowski has not been engaged by the parking. authority.
Yeah. They've tried.
Right,
It's,
yeah.
but it's engaged, it's a
Anyway,
two-way street.
that's a small part of the audit, but I guess my point is that it seemed like we should hear a fair amount about it tonight too, so.
Okay. We have a representative on the line from Zelenkowski, 2 of them. I'll turn it over to you to kind of go through what you deem appropriate.
Hello, thank you for having us. I am Kim Stank. With me is Justin Bell. We'd like to thank, first of all, Jamie and the whole finance office for their assistance. As Jamie had said, we do have very good news. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. So I am pleased to share with you that we're finally able to give the city an unmodified opinion on the primary government. So there's still, as was stated, there's still an adverse opinion over the component unit since they are behind in their audits. However, the city has come a long way, and we are very excited to share this great news of an unmodified opinion. So we are going to stay pretty high level, but we can dig deeper if you'd like us to. So overall, at the entity-wide level, there is, the ends the year of December 31st of 23 with a net deficit of, in their net position of about $104 million. That deficit is driven by the debt and pension and the OPEB liabilities. That's something that we have seen for the last few years and we've talked about. But overall, the net change in net position was positive by $21 million. So that's very good news. The fund level statements, that's digging a little deeper into the current year picture. The general fund itself ended the year with about 11.5 million in their fund balance. 5.7 million was unassigned. The other funds also had positive fund balances for the most part. The general fund had a positive change of about 4.2 million, and the city as a whole had a positive change of $8 million. When we compared the budget to actual, the city had a positive variance of about $3.5 million. So all very good things. Kind of digging deeper into the footnotes, very similar to prior years. And we did do a single audit this year, and the major program was ARPA. So do you have any questions for us? Or I know hopefully you've had the opportunity to look through the statements, but again, it's been a long road. And so we're very pleased to be able to give you an unmodified opinion over the primary government.
Any questions by members? Ms. Mealy?
Perhaps not so much questions as an acknowledgement that the city suffered kind of a serious setback in 2020 when we let go a chunk of our finance staff and discovered that we didn't really know where our books were at. And that in turn led to several years of clawing ourselves to a point of having a modified opinion. And so I think that we should acknowledge the really hard work that went into it by Jamie and also by Tracy Rash and a handful of other people in the finance department, Kristen. It took a long time to reconstruct and kind of rebuild our books and institute an entirely new financial software and change a number of things. And that I think has left us in a place perhaps not financially, but at least fiscally within the financial office that is much, much better than we were in before 2020. And I think it would also be appropriate to thank Zelenkowski for working through this with us because we also abandoned our auditor at the same time that we stopped doing audits there for a while. They sort of picked up a thread that wasn't there either. And we're trying to figure out what was going on. So I think it's been a challenging couple of years and I really appreciate the hard work you guys put into it. I know it was a lot, a lot of time and effort. I would, as I always say, in regard to the net position, that negative $104 million, which is a terrifying number, relates in large part to our other post-employment benefits, which we are not funding. We're funding on a pay-as-you-go basis right now. Other than that, there's also a small chunk related to pension liability, which we are more caught up on. Correct me if I'm wrong, actually, Kim, the city's in a pretty good position pension-wise compared to other third-class cities in the state, correct?
Correct. Your pension liability is about 17 million at this time.
Yeah. And while that sounds like a lot of money, that puts us in the upper chunk of, right? And I don't actually think we're not outliers on other post-employment benefits either, but it is worth it. It's a sobering thing to look at a balance sheet that shows you $104 million in the hole. But the important thing is that year over year, as a rule, we have a habit of budgeting a little bit more than we spend and consequently winding up in a slightly better financial position than the one that we anticipated being in. Unfortunately, that wiggle room usually shrinks a little bit with each passing calendar year, but the financial picture is perhaps not quite as dire as the one that we were painting a couple of weeks ago, just close. Anyway, those would be my observations from finance. Anyone who wasn't in finance who has questions about the documents, I would say, get out there and ask them. Like
Thank you,
Kim's
Ms.
here because I
Mealy.
can't answer them.
Any, any comments, questions from other members on the 2023 audit? Remind me, I didn't catch, if this was said, so this might be repetitive, but what's the timeline for the next, for 2024?
So on.
And then getting caught up, like when's an estimated time when we'll actually be in line?
So we plan to be in line. So we're supposed to have our 2025 audits done by no later than October 1st of next year. So we plan to be in line with that.
So this time next year, we
to be caught up.
anticipate being caught up
Yes.
completely and we'll be back in the normal cycle.
Yes, we currently have an RFP out that the bids are due by Monday for the 2024 through 2026 audit.
Okay.
So then once that's awarded, we have all the audit preparation done for whoever gets the bid to begin the audit preparation or the audit work. So, and then that takes a couple months, especially with holidays and stuff, that takes a couple months. So hopefully,
Yeah.
you know, in beginning of the year sometime,
Yeah.
24 should be done.
Good. Any other comments, questions? Good to see. All right, Mrs. Frank, item 10, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Jamie.
Also, the mayor did ask me if you go over his tonight, I am here and I can help with his or his resolutions or any items he has.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8, Mrs. Frank.
An ordinance designating Buck Run Alley.
Is there,
First reading.
is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Mr. Scott, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Council President Yoder, members of council. The first reading of an ordinance to present for your consideration. This is an ordinance designating Buck Run Alley. This is currently an unnamed alley, 112. It runs east to west between Penn Street, Mary Street, then over to another unnamed alley, 111. And it's between Eldridge Street and Lyons Avenue, north to south. The resident had contacted Lycoming County GIS addressing coordinator Tyler Landis. He notified us that in accordance to Lycoming County ordinance and National Emergency Number Association standards, we should not name this alley Lyons Place as we originally thought we would, because you have Lyons Avenue and Lyons Alley. But because they are in the vicinity, he said we don't want to do that because you might have confusion with the emergency services response or delivery service. So he suggested to go another route. It just so happens that the resident there, which is 351 Rear Lyons Avenue, they had requested and suggested that we call it Buck Run Alley. So that's kind of where we're at. We think it's a good fit. The resident was notified of this meeting and the next meeting on October 16th. And this was reviewed by Nick Grimes at McCormick.
Any questions, comments for Mr. Scott? Ms. Mealy, which one wants to go first?
I just wanted to know if we've ever actually seen any bucks on that alley.
What's that?
So I'm assuming, have we ever actually seen any bucks on that alley? Just curious. It's a nice name one way or the other.
That comes from the one resident, its property is owned by
Yeah.
Buck Run Estates.
Okay.
Jake and Jen Shoup, reside there. I guess.
We get a lot of does on my street, so it seemed like a
So,
possibility,
yeah. That's kind of where the name came from.
but thanks, Bill.
Mr. Mackey.
So my first question is, how many unnamed alleys remain in Williamsport? Do we even know?
I don't, Scott, you have any idea? This was number 112, so I don't know how many's left.
So there may be 111 more. Okay.
Total
Well-
or remaining? Remaining?
Well,
As a rule, we have to name them when there's when there's an address on them.
And one of the reasons why this came up was obviously their house burnt down and they didn't have an address, so it took a little bit for emergency services to get there. So the house just recently had a fire.
So there were residents with a home whose entryway was off of this
Correct,
unnamed alley.
correct.
Okay. So how were they getting mail prior to this?
Their current address is 351 Rear Lyons Avenue.
Okay.
And that was what I was told was a lot of confusion. You know, they were thinking it was the back of 351, but it's not. It's a totally separate house,
Okay.
different lot, way in,
Right.
way in the back. And they weren't getting their mail and deliveries and things like that.
Okay. So then my follow-up question to that is, do we have any other scenarios like that in the city where we have people in that situation? Because if we're going with Buck Run Alley because this is a public safety issue, then maybe we should be paying attention to other residents who may be in this same situation. And I don't know how you accomplish something like that.
Yeah. It's a legit question, though. I mean, if it happened here, are there other instances where it could happen in the city? And if so, like, how do we identify them? How do we mitigate it? I mean, it's an element of, I don't want to say finding a needle in a haystack, but it's finding a couple of particular things in a big area. It's difficult, but
I think
are we thinking of that? Is there a mechanism to do that? I think that's what you're asking.
Sure.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
I think we could request the media to ask for self-reporting in this context.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you live at a home that doesn't seem to be adequately addressed, or if you own a piece of property, I mean, it's not like a shameful or
Yeah, no, I
an
agree.
illegal thing if you own
Yeah.
a piece of property that doesn't have an address,
Right.
right? But we should designate one for it. We've done this before. We've named a handful of other alleys during my time on council because
Because of
there
it.
were physical addresses there, and it's a huge conflict for 911. So, I mean, but in terms of the mechanism for reporting, get in touch. That the little thing that people
Yeah.
click on the city's website.
I mean, that's one way to do it. Sure. But I think sometimes when you ask people to self-report certain things, they just forget about it or it doesn't happen. So my question is this a larger conversation we should be having about a way we could go forth and identify any other issues that there might be?
I could start by asking Tyler Landis, the county addressing coordinator, if he's
Yeah.
aware of any
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
like this in the city.
Okay.
Start with that.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a quick question.
Mr.
What,
Blizzy, yes.
what's the process if I have an unnamed alley behind my house, what do I do? Can I call up the county and then call up you, Bill, and say, hey, I'd like to name this alley the Eric Biter Memorial Alley? You know, can I do that?
He's gunning for you, Eric.
Whatever, I know. I'm just thinking ahead.
That is basically, the process here. It started with the county. Again, Tyler Landis, he's the addressing coordinator at the county, and that he approached us. I think it came to Gary and came to me eventually, and yeah.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, hearing seen on Mrs. Frank, item 8, please.
Mr. Allison. Mr. Allison.
He might be muted.
I'll mute him, Chris. Let's hear what he's got going on in there.
Do you
Hope-
want
I
to use
really
it?
hope you don't.
Okay, Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. We'll jump to item
Thank
9,
you.
Mrs. Frank.
An ordinance setting term limits of elected officials in first reading.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Mackey.
Thank you, President Yoder. Council, before us, we have an ordinance to establish term limits for elected officials. So for the record, that would be the mayor, city council members, the city treasurer, and the city controller. As it's currently written, those term limits would be 12 or, well, 3 consecutive terms for city council. No more than 2 consecutive terms for mayor, no more than 2 consecutive terms as city treasurer, and no more than 2 consecutive terms as city controller. I know I've talked to many of you privately about this, but obviously I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions on this ordinance here tonight. I think it's a good conversation to have in a public meeting, obviously. There is language in here based off some conversations we've had with the city solicitor, Austin White, in terms of, and Austin, you can probably explain this better than I can. Basically, not stopping people who are currently seated officials from running again to avoid any type of image, or to not create the image that we're trying to stop anybody from seeking future elections. And Austin, if you wouldn't mind, before I continue to butcher.
And just to clarify, I don't think that the language is not in the version that's in front of all of you. Austin brought that up to us yesterday afternoon as he was going through the case law, I think, of a state Supreme Court decision related to that. And so that he has recommended language. It's not in what's in front of you.
I apologize.
We have that. Should we need to amend it either later in this reading or in second reading?
or if somebody agrees to drop out of the race, it just doesn't matter anymore, right?
No, there's multiple that would fall into that, but anyway, sorry, Austin.
Yeah, I think that the legality of imposing term limits was something that did go up to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and I think it was 1986. It was the City Council of Bethlehem. They, at that time, at least, were a third-class city optional charter city, Mayor Plan A, and they passed a 2-term limit for mayor. And the state Supreme Court in 1986 said you're allowed to do that. The caveat being, though, in that case, the Supreme Court indicated that because the mayor at that time was elected to his first term after the city had passed the term limits, it was okay to apply to that mayor, that elected official, to prohibit that mayor from being elected to a third term. But the language in the case was such that the Supreme Court felt that if had the city of Bethlehem been trying to stop a incumbent from being elected to a third term, a different result would have been reached by the court. At least that's what they said in the opinion, essentially. So with that in mind, given that that case is the reason the city is allowed to even have term limits passed, it's the solicitor's office opinion that there should be added some language to indicate that it carved as an exception, that this ordinance would not prohibit a present incumbent from being reelected one time, really, because it's the third-class city code itself that says the elected officials, the same elected officials for which this ordinance would apply, have the right to be reelected. And then, but it just says reelected. So then based on the Bethlehem case, city council then has the right, because we have under the law, the strongest form of self-governance, at least that's how the General Assembly put it when they created the optional charter law. You have the right then to impose how many times they can be reelected, which
Yeah.
is you couldn't put a one-term limit on any office. That's clear because that would conflict with the third-class city code, which says elected officials are allowed to be reelected.
Yeah.
But you can say you're only allowed to be reelected once. And so at least from the solicitor's office, the recommendation is to put something in here to cover that. Now, what that language is really up to you all to decide. But I think given that you have two readings, you could accept the ordinance in the form that it's presently before you, which does not have language to address that. And then over the next week or two, work with the solicitor's office to try and find a solution to try and resolve that issue within the ordinance. Whether that's by means of changing the language, putting a preamble within the ordinance itself to give it the intent of city council, what the intent of the law is. I mean, there's a whole host of different ways we could accomplish it, but
Yeah.
I think it's certainly something that can be accomplished between the first and second readings, if this ordinance is indeed something that you decide to go with.
Thank you. That was a way better explanation than I was attempting to give. I do think it's important, just to note that I did not bring up the idea of this ordinance. I did not ask Councilman Yoder to help me craft this ordinance because any of us here are trying to stop anybody from being reelected. I think that's important. I genuinely think term limits are important, and that's why I am trying and suggesting that we pass a form of this ordinance between now and 2 weeks from now. And I feel that the number of terms that we have outlined in this ordinance are the correct terms for these. And I say that at the risk of offending some of my own colleagues who have served for more than 3 terms. And that is, again, nothing against any of them. It's just that I personally feel that really nobody needs to be on city council for more than 12 years. So, and that's but again, I will open it up now to the rest of the group for conversation, discussion, thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, John. The only thing I would also add, just from a language inclusion perspective, there is a mechanism in here for city council to appoint term limited individuals to fill vacancies.
Right.
They clearly would not be able to run again, but I just think about, we've had, I'm aware of 2 vacancies in the treasurer's office. I remember Council President Williamson resigning, and Councilwoman Fosnot filling that. She was, so I sitting in the chair for 6 years now, I see the benefit of having some experience coming in that could kind of help in a term of a vacancy. So I think that's valuable. That's written in there as well. So open floor, sorry, just another point. Ms. Mealy.
I just wanted to clarify, Austin, what the preamble or the language that you're referring to, does this clearly one of the intents of what you were saying would be that I am currently running for a 5th term, somewhat under duress, and it would be to allow me to continue to run for that 5th term and potentially be elected. But who else does it impact aside from me?
So
Would it elect the mayor's next campaign? Would it elect?
So as far as
Okay, sorry.
your present, you're talking about running as in this year?
Yes.
So given the time in which we're at
Right.
to pass this,
Right.
I'm looking as far as the limitations beyond that, as in, for instance, for yourself, I don't even think this could not, even if this were passed today as is, and then passed on second reading or 2 weeks from now, I don't even think at that point, it could not prevent someone who has already filed the petition, is already on the ballot, and is already about to go up for election this November. So I think this November, it has zero relevance to.
Right. Moving forward then, who else does it?
As it's presently written, I think.
Mayor,
Councilman
treasurer,
Yoder.
controller,
Yeah.
and Councilwoman Katz.
So-
They're the four. It's
Okay.
really
That's what I'm
the next
asking.
coming
So
cycle.
it wouldn't,
is
so
who-
it wouldn't
yeah.
affect Derek's ability to run for a third term, Bonnie's ability to run for a fifth as well, I believe,
That's
right?
that's the
Right.
precedent that he's talking about.
Okay.
It's people that
Okay.
are in office that are kind of in between cycles.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
think anyone who, after the effective, if the ordinance is passed, anyone who after the effective date of the ordinance then wants to run should be, at least based on the solicitor's office view of the law, able to be reelected at least one more time.
Got it.
Because the third class city code does have that language, and we can't retroactively
Got
stop
it.
someone by passing legislation midterm.
Got it. I just wanted to make sure who else it was impacting if that was indeed like the fact that it rolls down that way. Thank you for the clarification. And yeah, one of my primary concerns with this was actually not it affecting my ability to run for office again. But was that John, were it me, I would say that we should limit the mayor's office to 2 terms, the controller and the treasurer to 3, and council to 4. I think that in part because it can take a long time to get experience in a part-time position, like a city council position, and that it might be that it's valuable to have. That is to say that, yes, while I feel like I am jaded and sometimes, not an asset to council in other ways, it's taken me a long time to get the level of knowledge that I have. And I don't know that I think that a 4-term arc might be better in that context. Note that I am not saying 5. But, treasurer and controller, I'm not sure. I think we've one of my other fears with this ordinance is that we have struggled to fill elected official positions, not so much within the city, but certainly within lesser, like the school board positions. And I want us, I think turnover is a very positive thing in all of these positions. I also want us to leave some sort of a mechanism by which if we don't have other people running, that we can potentially allow someone to run for reelection who, has already hit the end of that term limit. And we do a little bit of that. You're right. The language that allows someone to fill out someone else's term, I think, is helpful there. And theoretically, Austin could be interpreted to mean that if no one ran for a seat and council had to appoint someone, they could appoint someone who was term limited, correct?
I think that I don't know who wrote the first, if Mr. Mackey wrote the first draft or whoever. I think there is presently language in there to allow the
There is.
appointment. Yeah, so that nothing. The third section in there is that any person who is ineligible for election to X position due to the term limits may still be appointed to fill a vacancy, and that language is present
And it would
in
be-
each section.
And it would be, I saw that. I guess what I'm saying is that would be not just a vacancy left by someone leaving a position, but a vacancy that was left because no
Yeah,
one ran
any
for that
vacancy,
position.
yeah.
It's the same
Okay.
thing.
Right.
And honestly, the way that, Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that it works, if there's a vacancy because of that,
Mhm.
that person would be appointed, but they'd have to run in 2 years. I mean, Dave ran
Mhm.
into it,
Right,
right?
right.
So like they
Right.
would have to run again anyway. And so
But in the
I get what
context,
you're saying,
but in the
but
context of someone who was term limited, they would not be able to run again in 2
No.
years. You could potentially run into the same situation over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
I don't see city council going down that path, but having watched it happen with the school board on a number of occasions, I'm nervous about it making maybe a little bit of a mockery of a system,
yeah,
But
fair point. And I mean, look, like, I mean, not to get too far down the rabbit hole, but I'm not sure how much of that is really a city government issue as much as it is as a political issue and a
Mhm.
civil society issue, right?
Mhm.
And so, fair point. And
But we're
I
not gonna
certainly,
cure it.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to cure it. I don't know that it's city government's role to cure, but
Right.
I mean, to be candid, I hadn't thought about that element
Mhm.
as much. And it's a good point to consider.
Anyway, and none of
So-
none of this is me standing in the way of what I think is actually a very good concept. I do think that term limits will serve government, and I think turnover serves government in a
Yeah,
lot of very
agreed.
real ways. So I think that this is an exceptionally positive thing. My disputes are with some of the nuts and bolts of it.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's why we have debate. That's why
Right.
we discuss it in open like this.
right.
Agreed.
Consequently, debate. Um,
Any other comments, thoughts? Mr. Pelisi, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I heard language that it would be consecutive terms, right? So if, Councilman Mackey, under this proposal, city council could not run for, or could hold office for 3 consecutive terms or more so. So what you get 3 terms in, you take a term off and then you run again. And then you could potentially go for 3 more.
Can you, so I think that was modeled directly off of the Bethlehem language, that's currently in their ordinances. So Austin, can you like speak to the legal interpretation of that? Because if that's a technicality, like, all right, you could do 3 for city council, for example, we'll take a term off. Then can you run again? I don't,
Yeah,
I think that's what you're asking, right, Vince?
Yeah, if
Hmm.
we put a term limit on there and it says, you cannot have, or you cannot hold office for 3 consecutive terms.
right.
Okay, so you have 2 consecutive terms, then you take a term off, somebody else fills the seat. Following term, you run against them and you get reelected.
You're absolutely right. Presently, as it's written, it's
Okay.
to avoid more than 2 consecutive terms, and that legally would not prevent someone from having a break in service as any of the elected positions than
Okay.
being reelected. So if you want to prevent someone from having more than 2 or
Okay.
3 total terms, that would require different language in the ordinance. Yeah.
I personally don't think it's necessary to limit someone if they
Yeah.
decide that whether it's 2 terms and
Yeah.
they come back and they want to serve 2 more or anything like that. But John, to the point that you're making, I think this is an absolute good idea. And to Liz's point as well, for that turnover in these elected positions, because we don't want to see turnover in government in the sense of the folks that are doing the day-to-day jobs. Because we need you there, especially with transitions from administration to administration, because you know how the things actually get done on a day-to-day basis. So we appreciate that. I also want to say as well that this is something, at a city level and a local government level, this is a grassroots movement that I would hope to see across the rest of the United States, because this is something that is desperately needed on the national level. Obviously, we put term limits, Congress put term limits on the president of the United States, yet they refuse to do it for themselves. And it gets us into a lot of situations that we as a nation should not be in. So, John, I thank you for bringing this forward to us.
I would second all that.
If I may, I still had a couple more questions. I like the idea of term limits. I sincerely do. We need fresh new ideas, more people to get involved. I think it's great. I certainly wouldn't want to restrict anyone that may have served earlier on in their life. Say, well, any one of us that, who knows, in 20 years, if we're retired and we decide that we want to get back into service and run again and get elected and serve again. I like that it's open to us. Regarding the treasurer and the controller, our current form of government, do they have to remain elected positions or could they become appointed positions?
They have to remain elected positions. The only way to fix that is by going
Home
through a
rule.
home rule process.
So if we ended up going
Yep.
through home rule, and the only reason I bring that up is, it's, some of these positions are difficult to fill.
Yeah.
And then even when filled, it's difficult to find the right kind of person to fill them. I would argue that, the city treasurer position, it takes a particular kind of person to even want to have that position, run for that position, and then be very capable of fulfilling that role, right? And I think we've been very fortunate for Mr. Mackey, Kevin Mackey in this case, to be in that role and be as effective as he has been in it. And I would hate to see us put some sort of term limits on it and say, you know what, Kevin, because of these term limits, you can no longer do your job, and he's been very effective at it. I kind of wonder if we should look at council and mayor for term limits initially, and maybe omit treasurer and controller or a part of that. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Right. I completely agree and understand the reason why we need to get fresh people in there, but I wouldn't want to see us lose somebody who's very good at their job for those purposes. That's all.
Yeah. Something to think about.
The concession that I would be willing to make on the point that you're making is what Liz had said. We up those to match what council is, so they would have 12 years in those positions versus 8 years in those positions.
Well, I think Liz proposed, what, 4 for council, 2 for mayor, and 3 and 3. Okay.
But for the row offices, 3,
Okay.
you said 3 for the row
Yeah.
offices?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, I said
She said 3 for
council,
treasurer
3 for-
controller, 2
3
for mayor, 4 for
treasurer.
council. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to kind of stagger it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make you a little bit less likely to wind up with a whole slew of new.
Right.
Yeah.
People into. Could I comment real quickly on Vince's point about the treasurer being a hired position versus an elected position? Because that I think is key personally. We have appointed the last 2 treasurers. Part of the reason I think that they have been as stellar as they have been. And I think the difficult thing about the way that third class city code operates, the code that we operate under is we also don't have any metrics for qualifying to run for those positions.
Exactly.
Which is to say, it is any elected official position is effectively a popularity contest.
Yeah.
And that in a financial role to me is a less than strong argument for voting for someone.
Yeah.
And likely, in every elected role, but certainly anything where you have specific responsibilities that deal with day-to-day financial things for the city. And I think that, one of the many reasons why I think that we should move on home rule is to contemplate whether or not those 2 things should become a hired position instead of an elected position within the city.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, I think I don't have a beef with term limiting them while we're doing that.
No, I agree, Liz. Right people, right seat.
Randy, Bonnie, any comments from you two? I want to make sure you have an opportunity to chime into the dialogue on this one, specifically.
For me, I've always said that there should be term limits. The problem is what would happen in the last election year is nobody was running against any of us.
Yeah.
And that in itself is kind of scary because you do want new blood. I was really excited the last time I ran because we were getting, newbies coming on because with new ideas. And I've often said that sometimes that ideas are presented to us, maybe the timing's off. And maybe we're not looking at things in the total picture. And new eyes can bring, more excitement and more ways of dealing with things. But again, I think at times we have problems filling committees, and I'm more frightened of that at this point because it just doesn't make sense that nobody, don't people want to be involved in what's going on in their community? I've always loved what I'm doing, and to me, that's where it is. But yes, I am for term limits because there are some people that get stuck in the mud and don't want to budge. And we're seeing that with government offices, either state or federal. And it's, it makes life difficult at times instead of progressing. I mean, I think we've been very lucky with who we have on council because we are moving forward. We're trying to do the best we can with the city, but you do need term limits. You really do. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Bonnie. Randy, anything that you want to chime in on here on, or?
I don't have anything beyond what's said. I really appreciate this discussion, though, the way it's transpired so far. I think we have a lot to consider between first reading and second reading, with to adjust whatever we want to, whatever nuance we need in there. I hear like a real give and take here, not confrontational, but it's the more I hear people sharing, kind of there's more clarity, I think, and the possibilities sound even stronger than the initial presentation, which is nothing against anything you've said, John. I think you've done us a great service in bringing us up. Yeah, I have personally, I have some thinking to do about some of the things that were possibly proposed tonight, and how we're going to complete that. So that's all I have to say about it right now.
Thank you, Randy. Yeah, I would agree with Randy. Good dialogue, good perspective across the board. Some things to definitely think about between readings. Ms. Mealy, something else to chime in on?
Just the one, to Bonnie's point about the last council election when nobody was running aside from the
Yeah.
incumbents. That's one thing I think that you can eliminate with the term limit ordinance, or hopefully. Because I think that part of the reason that people don't necessarily step up to the plate out of the gate is
Yeah.
because if there are incumbents, they figure why bother. So so loosening up that playing field, I think, would certainly be helpful. Yeah. I think we've seen a flood of some people flex into the race this year because Randy's stepping down. And I think that would lead me to believe that if there are open seats, there will be people to run for them, especially if everyone knows in advance that those seats will be open, because they're term limited, or because the person done everybody the favor of going out there ahead and been like, I'm not running, please find somebody else to run for my seat. So anyway, I hope that will be the case. And that's all.
No, fair point. Mr. Mackey, please.
Yeah, I will. Excuse me, I'll second, Councilman Mealy. Yeah, I think it does loosen up that incumbent advantage, right? Yeah, because last election, all four of us ran and nobody ran against us. Who was the top vote getter in that last election? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Doesn't matter. But I will point out that when I ran the first time for city council, there were essentially 5 open seats, and look at what happened. There was 12 or 13 of us up here on a dais having a really great debate. So that is what will happen, in my opinion.
Hopefully.
If there is an opportunity for people to run when they know that it is a level playing field. Mr. Palizzi, to your comment about the consecutive terms, I can go one way or the other on that. I mean, I think if you run for 3 consecutive terms, want to take 4 years off and come back and try again, I mean, you're probably a masochist, but okay. Go for it.
We haven't been able to convince Dave to do that. Let's put it
so but as far as the numbers are concerned, I myself am pretty solid on 8, 12, 8 and 8. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously we can have these discussions again in 2 weeks, over the course of the next 2 weeks. But yeah, and then, I think the other important discussion that we need to be having is this issue that Austin brings up, albeit it's a 40-year-old case. That's the only one you could find. That was it.
I try. I did my best. That's all I got for
So, I mean, something to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Where, I don't like to operate from a position of fear, which is kind of, when we say, well, let's make it 16 for city council because we're nervous that people might not run, or, look, if I've been here for 6 years, I mean, if you can't get your feet under you in the first 2, 3, 4 years in this job or any elected position, then there's a good chance you probably shouldn't be in that position. And that's exactly what this is trying to maybe curtail. So there's a flip side to that argument, concerned over the fact that maybe nobody's going to run. If we're not going to do it, who's going to do it? I mean, that's not a great place to operate from when talking about this type of thing. So anyway, yeah, I appreciate everybody's opinions here tonight. Yeah, just thank you for even entertaining this idea. I appreciate everybody here and the folks online too.
Ms. Mealy, anything to add?
Well, it seems like, Austin, we could cure the issue, part B of 12303 term limits of mayor, for instance, right? Couldn't we simply insert after the first comma there? Any person who is serving as mayor has been elected to serve as mayor as of the effective date of this ordinance may serve the remainder of their current term and may choose to campaign for a following term? Isn't that basically, doesn't that take care of the issue that you were?
Yeah, I mean, but it's also the other, it's
The
the two
intent
borough
question.
offices.
But I mean,
Yeah,
that clause is in every one of these segments. That's why I'm saying if we simply.
yeah, I think to Austin's point, I mean, I think he drafted something, but I think I think like making sure the language, like, I don't know that it's something we need to struggle through or work
Yeah,
with
no,
tonight
no.
is all I'm
But
saying,
that,
so.
that just seems to me like the simplest way to cure it, right? Okay.
All right, yeah, John, I would, second that. I appreciate you, spearheading this. This is great. I think from the dialogue, certainly some things to kind of digest, work through, think through between Austin, other members, that kind of thing. But, between now and 2 weeks, can work through that. And I think we're on a good track to do something big here. So I think it's great. I think it's great. Any other comments, questions before we maybe wrap up discussion here? Okay. Mrs. Frank, then on first reading of item 9, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Look forward to another good discussion in 2 weeks. Item 11, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution to approve the 2025 James David Robinson Cultural Arts Grant Program.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Livermore, welcome back.
Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't put two and two together when you were up here earlier.
That's okay. The resolution before you is for the James David Robinson Cultural Grant. I believe this is something we do every year. We received 4 applications and we have always done $3,000 divided equally amongst the 4 organizations is going to be $750. The 4 organizations are Community Arts Center, Williamsport Symphony Orchestra, Repaz Band, and Bald Eagle Art League.
All right. Any comments or questions on the resolution?
Adam, I do.
Yeah, Mrs. Katz.
First of all, everybody has always stated that we would like to see this grant be approved much earlier than the end of the year. because a lot of these groups could use the money sooner than later. The other thing that I would like to know is this was also supposed to be monitored with the money that's given out as little as it is. We are supposed to monitor how it's used and if it is used correctly. And I don't know if this has been done in the, how it's been done in the past. Because it's another thing that gets swept under the rug that we can completely forget about until it's presented to us the following year for the grant itself. I'm happy to see, the four entities that are being included in this.
Did she mute herself? Bonnie, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. I would like to see this be presented to us earlier if at all possible. And if you can get to us later of how this is, broken down into of what they plan on using this for. I can assume that some of it is for maybe some new programs, repass can be, so many different things that you can think of that they use it for. But I just want to make sure that we're aware of and being told what the money is used for. That's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Katz. Any other comments, questions from members? All right. Hearing see none, Mrs. Frank, item 11.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Item 14, certificates of appropriateness from the Historic Architectural Review Board. We've got a couple, 800 Park Place, 800 West 4th Street, 900 West 3rd Street, 1052, 1054 Vine Avenue. Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second?
What's up? Yeah, they're not here. Derek's not here. We were gonna wait. Yeah, I think it was for 11.
She said she can do mine.
Oh, yeah, hang on. All right, item 14. We can, let's work through 14. We can pop back to 5 if we want to. Any comments or questions on the certificates of appropriateness? All right, here you see now, Mrs. Frank, item 14.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. We could jump back up to number 5. I mean, I heard a comment that might be wise to wait 2 weeks. I don't think they're here. Derek's here. They weren't interviewed
Right.
either. But I mean, if people want to move on it, we can do that too.
If that's the case, and because it is a lifetime appointment, why don't we go ahead and wait the 2 weeks then?
Yeah.
We'll do the interview and all that stuff, and we can just take it along.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not aware that he wasn't interviewed.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. Item 15, except for filing water sanitary authority minutes from May, June, and July, hard minutes from September 2025. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Comments, questions on the minutes? Here you see none. Mrs. Frank, item 15.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Item 16, announcements. Our next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be Thursday, October 16th, 7 p.m. here at Trade and Transit 2. Immediately following this meeting, we will be having a police pension board meeting. Should be a quick one. Upcoming meetings, Monday, October 6th, 12 p.m. Planning Commission, Tuesday, October 14th, 11:30 a.m. Public Safety, 1 p.m. Finance, 2:30 p.m. Public Works. Wednesday, October 15th, 9 a.m. economic revitalization as needed. Thursday, October 16th, 10:30 a.m. zoning hearing board, 7 p.m. city council meeting. Other comments from members of the public? Yep. Mr. Miller, come on up. Name and address for the record.
Scott Miller, 822 Tucker Street. A couple things I wanted to comment quickly on. One, the term limits. One of the things I would worry about is losing that experienced senior statesperson, because sometimes the devil is in the details, and if you haven't ran into it, I did sheet metal work for 20-something years, and there's those problems that you run into 3 times in your 20 years. And if you haven't lived through it, you don't know how to get through it. 2, I've told multiple council persons over the decades that I've been coming, y'all ain't paid enough. Who wants to put themselves through what y'all have to go through for basically nothing? You know, y'all spend more, I think, on your campaigns than you do get paid for being a council person. And the last thing I wanted to comment about was, I believe it was Kim Singh, the auditor. She pointed out that in 2023, we had a positive of approximately $3.5 million. That means we had an extra $3.5 million. So shouldn't our property taxes, 1 mil is 867,000. Shouldn't our property taxes come down 3 or 4 mils if we have an extra 3.5 million? Just throwing it out there, because I don't know about y'all, but my property taxes are a burden. Have a wonderful evening.
Any other comments from members of the public? Okay. Any comments from members of council? Mr. Mackey.
Sorry to do this, but this will be a recurring theme for me moving forward. It's October. It's getting cold. We're not going to be paying to heat City Hall. We all have the information in front of us. We've had a study. We had a financial management firm lay out in very fine detail why we should not be holding on to this building anymore. I think one of the arguments that I've heard is that we've all been operating from a separate set of facts. Well, we all have the same facts now. So I would ask that we make a decision on City Hall sooner rather than later.
Thanks, John. Any other comments or from members of council?
I would just second Councilman Mackey's statements. We need to make a decision.
Well, here's what I would say. So one of the big pieces from that study was looking at the concept of leasing back space in City Hall and still selling it. I've tried to, kind of explore that. I'll admit it's taking much longer than what I had thought or hoped. But aside from that, frankly, when I think of the City Hall issue, to me, it just seemed like leasing space somewhere seems like a good idea. We've gotten feedback from the county, there's space there. Aside from leasing City Hall, maybe the Charwell building, but there's really not a lot of other options there. The kicker here is still the police and their space. That's kind of where my individual head's at. In terms of the concept of, leasing space back from City Hall, we could do a couple of different things. I mean, we could try to continue to informally kind of see if the economics work on that or not. If not, maybe we just do an RFP again and get updated price for that, but also include in that, hey, what would it look like to lease space back and give us the ability to figure out if one or the other makes sense for us and then execute it either way. So I'll throw that out there, but that's kind of where that's at, John, at least in my purview.
And I think that's the most solid approach, frankly.
So
Given that we simultaneously know that we don't have the borrowing power
Yep.
or the grit to to pursue a new
Yep,
structure. but
correct.
We have to figure something out. So,
Yeah,
right, I think we should probably be looking at that.
okay. What's everybody else think?
I think we need to move ahead, yeah,
Okay,
and I like that format.
okay.
I'm okay with, I mean, it's a matter of, we all know what our financial situation is for the city. We all know what we're looking at, having to expect. So it's a matter of wants versus
Yeah.
needs right now. And I
Mhm.
mean, we can want as much as there is out there, but what do we truly need? And we need to
Yep.
get ourselves out of the financial situation that
Yep.
we are
Yeah,
very quickly about to face. So, and it's, you know, those are the hard decisions that we're gonna have to
And out
make.
of the physical situation that that we're
Absolutely.
currently in.
Good.
Right. I think that's the thing is that we're looking for the fastest, most economical option to go from being a city that's scattered over 8 different buildings, in the, right, to a holistic approach to city
Mhm.
governance. And I am afraid that we'll throw the baby out with the bathwater if we move too quickly on eliminating the only option that would actually allow us to consolidate all of those functions in one building again, as it seems that we need to. But I don't know that we need to, this might be better meat for an executive session or something like that, if that's, or some sort of smaller group discussion. It doesn't need to be exact, depending on the parameters of it and what we're discussing, to try to figure out what would constitute an RFP for that for something like this to get the issue settled once and for all.
Any other thoughts from other members?
The
Go ahead.
question that I have is somewhat related,
Yeah,
but
sure.
has to do with these particular buildings, Trade and Transit 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I think knowing where we're at with that
Mhm.
as
Right.
well will help
Mhm.
make that decision, help us make that decision. Because we are in the process of dealing with the federal government, FTA, on how we're going to liquidate these places, potentially liquidate these places.
So yeah, I think to your point, Eric, if we can move on both of those things and come up with answers
Yes.
on both of those simultaneously, that probably would be our fastest
Yep.
route out. Right.
Absolutely.
Sorry, just to clarify.
Yeah.
You're suggesting, you're suggesting selling City Hall and then leasing space back to, leasing space in that building again for our, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that the study did not explore, that they thought had fruit. But yeah,
Okay.
for clarity.
Just want to make sure I understood
Nope.
what you were saying.
No worries. Any other comments or questions about that or anything else from members of council?
Well, I mean, again, just,
Yeah, please.
sorry. Even that scenario is going to take a long time, right? Whoever buys that building is in
Yep.
looking at an extensive remodel, to put it lightly. So if that is the scenario in which we think is our best option, then the first thing we need to do is put it back on the market and get a fair offer for the building, right?
That's kind of what we're talking
That's
about.
what we're
Right,
talking
yeah,
about.
okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Yep.
I would say though, John, and not that this is by any stretch of definition of what would happen this time around, but I have always been, I was shocked when I was a kid and asked my mom, the restaurant that I operate was, it went through a pretty horrendous fire in the late 70s, sat vacant for 7 years as a burned out shell. And then in January of 84, they undertook renovations that were completely finished by November of 84. And we moved in and opened a restaurant there and have done very few renovations since. So while you're not wrong that it probably would take time, I don't know that that's a preordained conclusion. I think something like that could be accomplished fairly quickly. And especially because the building is in significantly better shape than a lot of the buildings that we see take a while to renovate. But it simply depends on the contract, I think, and on a number of other factors there.
Condition of the building's up for debate, but
It didn't go through a fire. and then sit vacant for 7 years.
Any other comments on John's, thought or initiation discussion on City Hall kind of path forward?
I'm just real quick, I'm curious, because he does, Councilman Mackey makes a great point. We are getting into the colder months, and I think it costs how many thousands of dollars to heat that place over the winter?
It's at least 50 for the entire year, just for the this for the electricity and that. But I couldn't tell you exactly. At least $10,000 or $20,000. And then it's more expensive to
Okay, so it's $20,000 and it's only gonna get worse. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Miss,
One question on.
yeah,
Hey, Scott, what do we heat that building to? Yeah. That's what I'm wondering. I'm thinking like, man. I eat a couple of historic houses for a fraction of that. And
So where the property and evidence is, in the mid-60s, and everywhere else, we have thermostats locked around 60.
okay,
So,
but so, I mean, theoretically, we could heat it to 50 and be well above the threshold for.
yeah,
freezing
but
at
knowing
the
our
end of
track record with what's in there, it's
Yeah.
probably,
that. Okay, and either way, we would have to, I guess, point being, until we have another location for property and evidence, John, which is a secondary consideration, we are obligated to heat portions of that building to 65 degrees.
right.
Right.
Yep.
Because the one thing that we are ignoring in this whole discussion is that we actually are still occupying City Hall, just not most of it. And I'm going to assume that the cops want their workout room above 60 degrees too.
That went downstairs.
Yeah. But so to the extent that we are laying out a bunch of money for that building, part of it is because we are still utilizing a bunch of that building, and that requires us to heat it to 65 degrees. Okay.
Well, utilizing, correct me, just refresh my memory, Scott. It's the gym downstairs, right? That we're contractually obligated to provide, right?
Police, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So, but as far as the rest of the building is concerned, hasn't been much activity there.
And
No.
well, and the evidence storage
Sure.
is still there
But-
too.
Yeah.
And one, I mean, I think it takes up a couple thousand square feet at least, yeah. I don't know, I mean,
I don't know.
how much space, how much total square footage do you think those two things occupy between the
Oh.
gym and the,
I
I could.
I
actually
can't,
look
it's
it
in
up,
that
sorry.
report. I
but-
can't even spitball. I don't know what police.
changing it like 5 degrees is, we're talking about $500 or $600.
Oh, yeah, no,
Like, I mean, like if we're talking about adjusting the temperature to save a few bucks, like it's not gonna move the needle.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. At this point, I was saying how much of the building, how many thousand square feet are we currently still utilizing was what I was curious to know.
I'd say a third of the basement.
Right, yeah, that's with police there. I mean, we're talking a 40,000 square foot building, and then you knock everything down to police on 8,000.
Okay.
I don't know. It's been.
That was just a secondary curiosity question. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other comments from members? Anything else about City Hall?
Not,
Mr.
not,
Mackey,
not
please.
about City Hall, no.
Please.
Oh, I'd like to talk about brick streets now. That was a joke. I was kidding.
Right.
Mackie desperately does not want me to vote for his term limit ordinance, and he's trying to figure out how to make it a reality.
Any other comments from members of council on anything? Any comments from the administration?
I'm already up here. I got one.
Go on up.
So in the past years, leaf cleanup usually started right around the second week of October. We were starting October 6th, a week earlier, due to the fact it's been really dry. Leaves are falling a little sooner. We've been out and about trying to get caught up on the grates, but you can put your stuff out on the curb for us to get now. So,
What are the restrictions as far as what we can and can't put out?
What's that?
Yeah.
No bushes.
Yeah, what are the
Because- and
restrictions on
I
what you
speak for
cannot
myself,
put out?
So
I've
leaves are
already
a
seen
different
trees
brush.
out.
Yeah, same. It happens every year.
Right, so leaves are a little different brush. We can swing over up into the grass area with our trucks. When we pick brush up, we cannot, we'll destroy the property. But, get them on the curb, and we'll get to them as
Okay.
much as we can.
What should residents not put out?
Brush,
So
I just leaves.
Anything but leaves.
Just
right?
leaves, not brush.
If there's stuff, if there's
Not
brush in there,
dirt,
if it's,
right?
Huh?
Like not dirt
or
No dirt,
grass.
no.
or grass.
don't bury it. No
Don't
grass.
bury it.
No, because we
Right?
will leave it set. Yep, we
Sorry,
cannot-
look, I see it every year, right?
Yep.
I tell people every year it's in one ear out the other, right? So that's why I asked the question. So
Fall.
it's out
just
there.
leaves.
Everybody has heard it from the man, the myth, the legend, Scott Livermore. So
I was just lecturing myself about that yesterday, Scott. No, you can't put those old sunflower plants out by the curb. So I think it's important to point out.
any other comments from the administration? John, you're the news media tonight. Any question? You're good? Motion and a second for adjournment?
So moved.